Thom Hartmann here with you, and Alfred in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Hey, Alfred, what's on your mind today?
Yeah, I listened to that show.
Hey, Alfred, let me stop you for a second. I cannot understand what you're saying. It sounds like you're talking to me from the bottom of a tin can. If you have me on a speakerphone, would you please turn off the speakerphone?
How about this?
That's much better, Alfred. Thank you.
So the gentleman you had on a little earlier was very thoughtful, and you asked him a direct question. Well, how is this? What's happening now that would show that we're the inequality and the takeover and the terrible things? And he didn't have a direct answer. But his direct answer should have been what you had talked about earlier, which is the police state is softening us up to take whatever the government gives us. You talked about the 900 people that are killed by police. You talk about, I'm sure you've talked about the militarization of local police forces with tanks and SWAT teams and things of this sort. This is the beginning.
Well, and my bigger concern around that is how television is either leading or cheerleading, one or the other, that charge. And it's been a few months since I've talked about this, but Louise and I years ago, when we both had surgery the same month, weird coincidence, ended up binge watching TV for a few days, stoned on painkillers, or at least I was. And we were watching old episodes of Hawaii Five-0, which we, grew up with as kids, and Jack Lord, and all that kind of stuff. And then we watched the new version of it. And in the new version, the guy who's playing McGarrett, the head cop, he drags this suspect into a basement room in the basement of the police station and shoots him in the knee with his gun. I mean, shoots him in the knee as a method of interrogating him. And, we watched like 5 or 6 episodes, and in every single one, the police were committing horrific crimes and were being congratulated for it. And every visit to any kind of civilian was basically a SWAT team. And I'm like, holy crap, are American police watching this? Do they think that this is how they should behave?
Yeah, that's my point. And furthermore, the populace is going to accept that as a normal.
That's right.
And we're going to not protest. We're going to take free speech zones for granted. And the next thing you know, when we really do explode, the police will be equipped to stomp it down.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Alfred. Well said. Robin in New York City. Hey, Robin, what's up?
Hi. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Robin.
Hi. Yeah, I just wanted to say I really, the call that you had a few minutes ago, the man, I guess the previous caller was mentioning it too, saying that he didn't have a response in terms of what's going on now. But I heard the threat when you asked him. He said to you, well, then next time call what did you say,
a roofer? Yeah.
A roofer. But I'm saying I heard that threat in there. That's the same threat from Jim Crow.
Yep.
And when well-intentioned whites do not stick together, that's that threat. Well, then call a roofer, like, well, maybe we'll let your house burn down. And it's wrong because it's going to take white people that don't mind feeling uncomfortable to really speak to this and address everything that's going on, because it's so wrong what's going on.
Yeah.
And when people say it's that attitude of, well, you're attacking the police, I think that's just not wanting to hear any truth. Like, don't make me uncomfortable with your facts.
Well, that statement implies basically it's kind of a love it or leave it statement. It's okay, if you don't like the way the police are behaving, next time you're in trouble, call a roofer. That's a binary choice, right? You either call the police or you call the roofer. What about if you don't like the way the police are behaving? Let's have higher standards for police, better pay for police, and more professionalism in our police forces. I mean, why do I have to choose between bad cops or a roofer?
But I think that's the threat, though. During Jim Crow, it was, well, then maybe you won't have the fire department there when your house burns.
Yeah.
I mean, that sends a message. That's how you have that Birmingham bombing. That sends a message for those that would speak up truth to power. And it's really unfortunate because the issue is those that just want to theorize, well, what do you think is going on? they're just uncomfortable with discussing facts, but meanwhile, other people are dying.
Yes. Yeah.
Other people are dying. So maybe the families of those that have died, maybe they would like the luxury of just being uncomfortable and speculating, oh, I wonder what's going to happen.
66 people so far this year. And then the most recent outrage, and not all of them are outrageous. I'm sure that some of those, 66 people who died absolutely deserve to be shot by a cop. I get that. But you've got the situation in Washington, D.C., just a couple days ago where this young Iranian man, fled a fender bender. He was unarmed, but his skin was darker than mine. And the park police chased him and fired 7 bullets into his car, 3 of them in his head and 1 in his wrist. And
exactly.
I mean, really? This is not how policing is done in other countries. Well, maybe in Turkey, maybe in Egypt, but I thought we had higher standards in this country. So,
but I think when people, evangelicals, have lost their moral authority, when they kept turning a blind eye, then this is what you get.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was I don't know if you watched SNL. The SNL had that skit that they did with Stormy Daniels when she said, about you get a Stormy, you get a Stormy. There was a lot of truth in that.
Oh, I did. I haven't. As Saturday Night Live, I haven't seen that. I'll have to go look for the clips.
But
I can never stay up late enough to watch it on TV.
But basically saying those that didn't speak up, like because you didn't speak up with the atrocity of how Puerto Rico was dealt with, well, then you get a Stormy.
Oh, I see.
You get that porn story. Well, then you get this. And there's a lot of truth in that.
Yeah.
Evangelicals sided with this and haven't said anything, haven't denounced it, and have made every excuse.
Oh, it's even worse than that. I mean, you've got Franklin Graham out there talking about, a conspiracy in the FBI. I mean, it's what does that have to do with religion? And what does that have to do with Jesus? I mean, who would Jesus drop from health care? Who would? It's just anyhow. Robin, I've got to move along. Thank you for the call, Robin. Thank you for listening to Sirius XM. Jim in Chicago. Hey, Jim, what's up?
Sure. Hi, Tom. Yeah, I thank you for being a voice for the middle class, you and Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. Your caller, I've listened to him before, Wolf, your guest.
Richard Wolf, yes. Professor
Richard Wolf, yes. He's very, very right on point with what's the decimation of the middle class and the decimation of this country's tax base. You can only lower taxes so long, you're going to run into a brick wall because it's the infrastructure, it's the courts, the bridges, the roads, the water systems, everything that make the schools that make this country a better place, work, live, and raise a family and do business. Right. It's the foundation of that shiny city on a hill. It creates wealth. It's created wealth in this nation. I just feel, I make a good dollar. I mean, I make a pretty good dollar for a blue-collar job. It's unionized. I don't pay for my health care. I make about $80,000 a year, but I'm still living paycheck to paycheck. I still need to renovate my house that I can't afford. And I'm still just paying bills and paying bills. I'm just churning. I'm churning for the 1%, creating wealth for the 1%. I don't care if you raise my taxes 90%. As long as that 10% I get to keep gets me further down the road year to year. I see the job I'm doing is getting less unionized. They're going to non-union. Our numbers are diminishing, and I've done this for 30 years. I've been in a union job since 1978, and back then I knew I couldn't have 8 kids like my father did, and he did the same job I'm doing. And we were able to have a decent house. We weren't rich, but we had food on the table. We had a cabin between to go hunting and fishing in. I got married in 1980. There's no way I could do that. Yeah. I told the wife, "Wait, ain't no way I could have 8 kids." All of a sudden you had to have 2 incomes. One income wasn't good enough. Now, or more or less, you got to have 2 college-educated jobs that pay a decent wage to consider yourself middle class. And eventually that's going to fall apart too. They're shooting themselves in the foot.
It already is, Jim.
The rich are shooting themselves in the foot. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we have over $1.5 trillion just in credit card debt in this country. I think it's $7 or maybe it's $9 trillion in other forms of debt that Americans have from, car loans and other kinds of things. Corporate debt is massive. I mean, the government debt is largely irrelevant, but the corporate and personal debt in this country, people are living the lifestyle that they're living with their credit cards. It's just it's breathtaking.
The average 401k is only worth $100,000. And you try to retire on $100,000.
Well, the bottom 50% of the bottom 80% of Americans have less than $16,000 in taxes, if I'm remembering right. I just saw this a couple days ago, and so it's, I mean, not in taxes, in stocks, in retirement funds, excuse me. And go ahead.
I talk to people every day, and they say, "Oh, I'll never retire." Oh, well, I said, yeah, that's the new retirement plan in this country. Work till you drop.
Well, the Republicans want to raise the Social Security eligibility age to 70. I mean, a number of them have seriously proposed that. Yeah, people should work until they're 70. Jim, I got to run, but thank you for the call.